Good morning, everyone. Welcome to LACUNY Institute 2023. And we are going to have three presenters who are going to be presenting between, again, in the 15 to 20 minute time frame. Derek and I are going to be, again, hosting and moderating the session. You're going to be timekeeper. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the first presentation is with Michelle Ehrenpreis, and if I mispronounce your name, from Lehman College, I apologize, from Lehman College. And the presentation is engaging in a cross-disciplinary community of practice to build scholarship. And then we have Aryssa, Damron, who's going to present turbocharge your professional development on an award committee. And finally, Janet Munch, also from Lehman College, is going to be presenting on professional development and faculty status for librarians at the City University of New York system. So Michelle, if you'd like to start, shall I make you co-host so you can share your screen? I'm going to turn my audio off. I want to thank you for presenting. I want to thank everyone for presenting this morning. Do you want to make you co-host? No, you're already co-host.
I'm ready. I'm already co-host.
Wonderful. I'm going to just shut my audio off. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Go. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my presentation, Engaging in a Cross-Disciplinary Community of Practice to Build Scholarship. My name is Michelle Ehrenpreis. I'm the Electronic Resources Librarian at Lehman College, Assistant Professor. So a little bit about my background. Prior to coming, I began at Lehman in 2017 on the instructor line. I pursued a second master's in organizational management and business leadership through CUNY SBS, and I'm currently on my second year of tenure track as an assistant professor at Lehman. Prior to coming to Lehman, I worked as an information literacy instructor, an electronic resources librarian, and a public services librarian. And these were all administrative roles, and therefore my publishing experience was really limited to the two experiences you see on the screen. The first was an opportunity when I worked at a for-profit college to customize the textbook that we were using at the time. An older and wiser colleague said to me, Michelle, you should be a part of this. It's good for you, because I was just starting out. And, you know, they say, listen to people who are older and wiser than you. So I took part in this. Particularly, I got to edit the chapter on racial stereotypes and propaganda, a topic that was very important to me that I used to speak about with my students. And it was a great experience. And it also built credibility with my students, because I held up the textbook and said, this is what we're using. And they right away noticed that I was one of the authors on the text. The second experience was when I worked as an electronic resources librarian, and my director said, you should probably publish in the Charleston Advisor. It's a publication that's very central to electronic resources. And again, I took the advice, and it was a good experience to look at a database from a critical standpoint of licensing, usability, accessibility, et cetera. But I really had no formal approach to scholarship because it wasn't required of me. Instead, I was very focused on building my technical skills. And if I wanted to see, you know, new projects and what was going on, I'd look at Harvard or other, college websites and look at, Library Journal top 10 lists. But I didn't approach projects by consulting literature and looking to see, well, how are others doing it? How is it going about? And how are they assessing it? Ooh, I went back too fast. Hang on. Back again. Hold on a minute. Let's go back. All right. There we go. Hold on, I'm writing this thing up. Sorry. Oh gosh. Okay. So fast forward to coming to Lehman. I'm just gonna do it this way. I'm just going to do it like this. Apologies. Fast forward to coming to Lehman. My initial feelings towards scholarship was scared and both excited, as that emoji definitely conveys. And really the kind of questions that were going through my mind was, where does scholarship now fit within my role at Lehman? I'm now a faculty librarian, but obviously I want to continue to build my technical skills and build my skills, et cetera. How is this going to play about? Can I turn my projects into research? Do my projects kind of translate into research? And what would that look like? For me, starting on the instructor line was very helpful, because I had really had time to kind of build my confidence and really kind of practice, or if you will, learn about scholarship before I was actually required to do it. And of course, how will I learn? How will I be able to kind of build scholarship and learn in a formal or formal network? And really what became about is that I had an opportunity to join the community of practice known as Research and Writers, which I'm going to speak about today. Kenneth Schlesinger, Chief Librarian, Associate Dean, said to me, there is a community of practice known as Research and Writers that's from the School of Education that the library is part of. I think this would be a great opportunity for you to join. So what is Research and Writers? Oof, I'm just going too fast in my slides, so I apologize. There we go. Purpose of Research and Writers is to provide a safe and inviting space for library and School of Education faculty to present current research that the author is attempting to publish in a scholarly journal. Faculty are encouraged to submit manuscripts in whatever forms of completion to the group prior to the meeting. During the meeting, the author is encouraged to provide context for the project and why this research was undertaken. Each member of the group shares feedback based on their understanding and the reading of the text, and asks pertinent questions to assist the author in clarifying and improving the contents of the paper. So essentially, Research and Writers meets 3 times a semester, and the author, the faculty who's presenting, is encouraged to submit their manuscript 2 weeks prior to our meeting in order to have enough time for everyone participating to give feedback. And really what makes Research and Writers so special, like a lot of communities of practice, is its members. And so Research Writers consists of library representation, our past co-chair, Kenneth Schlesinger, our current co-chair, my fellow presenter today, Professor Janet Munch, faculty, librarians, tenured, tenure track, and non-tenured from multiple areas in the library, as well as the education department. The associate dean has served as a chair of Research and Writers, chairs, professors, tenured and tenure track, and multiple areas. And really, each of these people bring a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge to the table when they review a manuscript. And that really comes forward when they give their feedback, so that the person presenting is left with so much information and so much feedback so that they really have very good ideas in terms of how to take this research and how to take this publication, this article in its infancy, to publication. So my initial experience serving on Research and Writers pre-tenure track was I hoped to learn through osmosis. I really didn't speak much because I was new and I didn't really feel that I was ready to, but I really listened a lot. And that really helped me gain to understand what it looks like when you take research and you want to turn it into a publication. What does this process look like? It also gave me an opportunity to read critically. Here I got to see manuscripts that were in their infancy or even towards completion. And what kind of elements was I looking for? How are they discussing their research? How are the research questions phrased, et cetera? But that was really my experience initially. And then slowly, I began to learn even more and feel more confident just that I can do this and I can understand and what this, what this was really all about. I learned a little bit about the different frameworks and what they looked like in research, methodologies, qualitative, quantitative, ethnography, action research, et cetera. I also had an opportunity as library faculty to share what the library can do for faculty in terms of publications. We were at the time pursuing a subscription to Web of Science and Journal Citation Reports. And so we were able, as electronic resources librarian and with my colleagues, we were able to share what the library can do for faculty on campus. So that was also a nice opportunity in participating in Research and Writers. So now fast forward, as a tenure track faculty, I finally started speaking up because I finally felt a little more confident. The things that I thought, what other people said is, oh, I thought the same thing, I actually verbalized. I also we now do it over Zoom, which I personally find more helpful because we have Google Docs that you can kind of write up for the person. I knew what to look for. I had this idea of writing with an audience in mind. And of course, a deadline spurs action. And then I submitted an article that my colleague Vanessa Naisanati began writing for feedback to Research and Writers once I began tenure track. And really, once we submitted our manuscript, Wesley Pitts, who is a chair of middle and high school education at Lehman, really took our draft and said, okay, I think you have an active research methodology, because the article was about a knowledge base that we created during the pandemic to address students not asking questions via the chat as much. And really, he saw that, we created this knowledge base in response to a problem. We now had data of all the questions the students were asking. And now we wanted to see, well, are the questions being answered? What can we do to improve the FAQ going forward? And it's this cycle. And really that got the wheels in our head turning that, hey, this is not just going to be an implementation article. We can turn this into a research article. And even though we actually didn't end up using the action research model, because we really didn't plan our method, if you will, that way. So it kind of didn't really fit. But it really got the wheels turning that this is going to be an assessment project of the first year of use. And we're going to look at the questions that were not answered and understand how we can improve the FAQ based on those questions by grouping them into categories through a content analysis. And what that resulted in was our publication, Improving a Library FAQ, an assessment reflection of the first year's use. My second experience was learning from the first, which is have as much done as possible. That way, the more you have done, the more people can give feedback, understandably. Have the literature review done. This gives you context for where the research is coming from, and also shows that there is purpose and there is a need for this research because others aren't publishing on it. And of course, deadline spurs action. Here we were even more motivated. I was even more motivated to get as much done as possible so that I'd get as much feedback as possible. And the second article I submitted for review was implementing a chatbot on a library website as a case study. And again, Wesley Pitts looked at our draft and said, okay, this is more than an implementation. You have a lot of data in a lot of different places. You have a lot of jargon. You really need to clarify for the user where the questions that are going into the chatbot are going. Are they being answered by an agent, such as a librarian? Are they being left into like a ticket system, which is where we answer them via email? What happens if they're not answered? Did they go somewhere for re-indexing? And how did the implementation kind of play out? Was there a turning point in the data? You know, did the data change? Did it influence, et cetera? And this really helped us turn our article from just an implementation into what we learned and what kind of influence the chatbot was having on our library website via the questions that were being asked and either successfully answered or not successfully answered. And that's actually current research that my colleague and I are undertaking presently. And that resulted in implementing a chatbot on a library website. And so that was my second attempt to send something to research and writers and get fantastic feedback that resulted in publication. And my third is currently in process here. At this point, I felt like an old, I felt like I got this, if you will. I had questions prepared for the group. I had a Google Doc ready for note-taking. It was already anonymized and somewhat formatted. That way people didn't have to be kind of distracted by that, or that kind of didn't take away from the content. I had a journal in mind. That way I knew that there was an audience that I was looking for. And of course, deadline spurs action, that I knew that the more we got done. And this has been, the third time has really been the best experience, if you will. So creating your own research and writers. So while what we have at Lehman is very special, I definitely think it can be replicated at other campuses. We have a very special partnership with School of Education. I think that other campuses can do this too. I think you really benefit from having a cross-disciplinary community of practice because, as I said, faculty bring a wealth of experience based on their training, based on their publication, based on their area of interest, based on their work history, and you really gain so much. So I think this can be replicated in other campuses, maybe not even with education, maybe even just within the library. Create your own research and writers, your own community of practice within the library with your fellow colleagues, or with, like I said, another department. And really what this involves is having someone read your work. I definitely recommend a librarian reading your draft. A fellow librarian understands your work. They understand the importance of library work. They understand where you're coming from, and they can give very inside information, very important pointers. The other recommendation really is to have someone in a different discipline read your draft. And again, for the reasons that I've been stating. And this is easier than you think, in that we all serve on committees with faculty from different disciplines. We teach in different disciplines, depending on our role. We serve on different committees. We have different experiences with different faculty members. It's easier than you think. And really the one thing I would recommend is that when you give a draft to someone to look at, you should say to them, maybe focus on just looking at my methodology or just looking at my research questions, as opposed to just giving them a draft and saying, hey, can you look at this whole thing and give me feedback? It kind of focuses them to say, can you please focus on one or two areas? That way they know what they're looking for. And that will really help you in order to know, well, okay, this is really what I need to focus on. This is really where I need to be, improving my draft. This is really where it's weak, et cetera. And of course, rinse and repeat. The more people that read it is helpful, but I think giving them structure and giving them like a job, it also is easier to get them to do it because, quite frankly, we're all busy and we all have, a lot of obligations, will also make it more meaningful. And that's really my advice in terms of creating your own research and writers group through a cross-disciplinary method of having different faculty, both librarians and from other disciplines, read your work. And that is my presentation today. Thank you. And I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I guess I'm nervous and tapping too much on my keyboard.
No problem. That was great.
That was excellent. Excellent. Very good, Michelle. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I really love learning about your, again, publication journey and the trials and tribulations of the tenure track. Excellent. We have a second presentation now. I want to pronounce your name. I'm going to say, is Aryssa or Aryssa?
It's Aryssa, like Alyssa.
Okay, fine. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Aryssa Damron from DC Public Library is going to present Turbocharge Your Professional Development on an Award Committee. Excellent. Go ahead. Thank you.
Great. The slides are mostly so you have something to look at other than my face the whole time. All right. Thank you all so much for having me. When I started thinking about professional development, especially this year as we're kind of coming out of COVID, refinding our footing and our funding and all these sorts of things, I immediately thought of award committee work. If you're looking for a monetarily free, it's not time free, but monetarily free way to turbocharge your professional development that leaves you with new professional friends, 100 or 300 extra books inside your house, and an uncanny ability to parse out the quality of a book within a single page, you have got to join an award committee. Certain types of library professional developments will pay dividends for years to come. Like Michelle talked about, that sort of reading and writing publication pays off for years to come, and award committee work also pays off for years to come. As a little background, my name is Aryssa Damron. I'm a librarian in Washington, D.C.'s public library system, and I'm currently the chair of the Andrew Carnegie Medals for Excellence in Fiction and Nonfiction, which is the only single title adult award given out by ALA. We partner with Aryssa, Reference Services, and Booklist for this. I also previously served on the Carnegies as a member and on the Alex Awards, which is a 10-book award given by YALSA to the best books published for adults with teen appeal. And if you're thinking, that's really specific, yes, it was, and it was really hard. Looking at a book and being like, okay, it's a lovely book, but what 17-year-old do I know that would love this? So I'd actually been working in libraries for a few years before getting involved in committee work. And through this award committee work and process committees, of course, including the membership and research committees of different ALA divisions, I've had professional development opportunities that have truly skyrocketed not only my career, but my skills. And so what I really want to focus on today is how this award committee work is not only something cool to talk about, to see your name on the press release or whatever, but how it's also incredibly skill building and a great professional development opportunity. Oh, I'm just going to leave that there for a while. Great. So award committee work and frankly, committee work in general for professional development organizations, it either consumes your entire life or it doesn't cross your radar. Committee work is actually how professional organizations work. I'm sure LACUNY is happy to talk about that as well. And for many award committees, that's how organizations make their money. If you think about seals, the little Newbery stickers that go on things, that's a lot of the funding that groups like ALA and ALSC actually get to run the other things they do. While process committees make these organizations tick and truly drive the ship, the award committees get this sort of sheen on them. They're something the authors dream of receiving, but who gives them? Who's in the room where it happens? And that's librarians and booksellers and professors and book adjacent people, really. While not all of us are going to be tapped to pick the Pulitzers, professional organizations have so many awards that they give out that there is truly a role for anyone who is genuinely interested and dedicated to this work. If you want to turbocharge your professional development through an awards committee, look at the awards given by a professional organization that you're aligned with. Figure out the volunteer process and put your name forward. For organizations like ALA, there are often so many awards that a good candidate that puts their name forward will land somewhere. Appointments are often made by the president or incoming president or a nominating committee, and most organizations have a process by which you can express your interest. If you can't find that process, though, do reach out to a trusted mentor and ask. If you are in the American Library Association, I am happy to share my email and I can connect you with the right nominating people. So thinking about those sort of tangible skills, it's like, okay, all that done, I am here. I am working on this committee. what am I going to get out of this? Like, why am I dedicating hours and hours of my reading time, of my free time, of my work time to reading these books and judging these books? Committee work is a great way to build professional development through teamwork opportunities, accountability, and the various skills related to award choosing, which includes learning to read like a fiend, navigating library databases and catalogs, and more. When I first served on an award committee in 2021, I was new to the profession, dealing with a pandemic, and my main job was not giving me a lot of growth potential. There weren't opportunities because we were all working half days, giving people books through plexiglass. Serving on an award committee, though, changed the game. I joined the Carnegie Committee under Chair Terry Hong, and not only became a crack at reviewing books and discussing them with fellow panelists, but I also built skills related to accountability. You have to have so many things done by this date: time management, spreadsheet management, navigating new to me websites that were integral in staying on top of this work. I became better at reading and staying on top of trade journals, at checking in with myself as a reader for when I needed to DNF a book, and at communicating my feelings about a book without it being about my feelings. Building a language around book reviewing changes the way you work as a librarian and also opens up your reader's advisory eyes. Speaking of reader's advisory, serving on an award committee, especially one as diverse as the Carnegie, where you'll be reading fiction and nonfiction, is an indispensable bonus to your work and your library. By letting you spend a few hours a week in these meetings or working on this reading, they're gaining your new breadth of reading experience to pull from for RAs, displays, one book initiatives, and more. Though I currently work in children's, I've actually mostly served on award committees looking at books published for adults, which has kept me reading broadly and better able to assist patrons when I do serve adults as well as children. And of course, it cannot be understated, kind of like Michelle talked about, the power of that interdisciplinary. You are meeting other people in the field, but that are not, in your house. The house is this, you want to meet everyone in your community. So currently I serve on the Carnegie Committee with booksellers from across the country, retired librarians, people who work for trade journals, and it's a great networking opportunity. Thinking about tangible skills you can also build if you are elected to chair an award committee. If you're selected to serve as an award committee chair, there are other levels of professional development that can be unlocked. This includes not only traditional leadership potential and skill building, but also liaising with partner organizations, as well as sort of quasi-management for your committee members and committee tasks. For example, in comparing my work as a committee member versus the chair of the award committee, I do not only a lot more work in general now, but it also is more about following up with our liaisons, creating reading lists, cross-checking eligibility. This has led to me being more adept at exploring catalogs and publisher websites, which I do then use in my daily work, but also at managing not only my own time management expectations, but the expectations of my team and how much reading they can reasonably handle in a set amount of time. While I may never be assigning reading to my regular work colleagues, this is valuable information in learning how to manage not only my own workload, but account for the workload of others. And now this all sounds great. You're like, I'm going to be a great manager. I'm going to learn to read so fast. It's going to be great. But what if raising your hand isn't enough? What if you are in a committee or on an organization that doesn't quite have the same streamlined process or as many? There are things you can do to start building that. You can join local awards and best of lists, see if your state library association does this sort of work. And you can also volunteer to review for trade journals and magazines and websites, Book Riot, Booklist, Kirkus, Hornbook, etc. You can either read widely and kind of, be able to advocate your breadth as your service, or you can develop a niche. You're the person who knows easy readers. You're the person who knows 19th century nonfiction books, things like that. And now what I really want to focus on is how you can get your full-time employer to support you in this professional development work. I think we all know that that's one of the hardest things to do, is get the buy-in from the person who's writing your paycheck. They love to say, like, of course, do it. But if they're not going to give you that time and space, you're not going to succeed. Whether that support they give you is the ability to telework, to take meetings during the day, or to simply incorporate your committee work as part of your SMART goal, please advocate for yourself in one of these ways. These are sort of pitches that I can imagine you saying or writing to your person. So the reading I do as part of this committee will make me a stronger employee, better at readers advisory for multiple patron demographics, and inform the work I do with displays, etc. If you work on one book initiatives, highlight that. By working with a new committee of people, largely virtually, who come from different backgrounds, I am growing my network in this profession, as well as learning to balance new team dynamics that will make me a better employee here. And through this work, I am learning soft and hard skills of the profession and utilizing them in new ways, including learning new databases, new systems of management, new processes, and expanding my communication skills. You will have to pitch yourself and convince your organization to let you take these things on. I have experienced it. I know everyone that I've worked with who comes from the publishing world, the academic world, they've always had to make their case. And it's great if you can highlight the keys of professional development. It's not just, I want to read books and say they're good. It's like, no, I'm building these skills, and this is how you will benefit from them. Finally, if you are inspired or intrigued, here are 3 concrete steps you can take right now to start your kind of journey on this. And you might be deciding whether that is a journey that you want to take. Visit the website of your preferred professional organization, state, like national, hyperlocal, and look at what awards they give out. Learn the names of these awards, learn the Carnegie, learn the Alex, learn the super fancy hyphenate ones, and see previous winners. That will kind of give you, if you see a bunch of previous winners that you've loved, maybe that's a clue for you that that's an award you'd like to serve on. Update your resume or LinkedIn to mention something with your experience on reviewing books, even if it's just for purchase at your library or within your niche field. And if you're a member of the American Library Association or another group that has a hyper-focused award volunteer form, please fill that out immediately. My information is on the screen. Thank you. Please reach out if you have any questions, and I hope that your professional development journey leads you to an award jury.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Aryssa. Thank you. It was excellent. I was just taking notes. I'm also involved in an award committee, so I think it's an excellent example of really for professional development and really enriching your career. It was excellent. The next presenter is Janet Munch, who's going to be talking about professional development and the faculty status of CUNY librarians.
Okay, so I should share the screen now, or?
If you like.
Okay.
And thank you for all the presenters today.
Share. Okay, and okay, from beginning. Okay, here we go.
That's excellent. Perfect, Janet. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm the special collections librarian at Lehman College. I've been here since 1985, and I'm now a full professor here at the college. So I've been involved with faculty development issues for a long time at the college. So some of it is what I'm going to say on that, and then long experience on our P&B committee, Personnel and Budget Committee here at the college. And so let me start. Okay. First of all, CUNY librarians have had faculty status for a long time, going back to 1943. And they got, in addition to faculty status, they got faculty rank in 1965. So we have a long period of time we've been functioning as instructors, assistant professors, associate professors, and professors. I put full just so you'd have a sense that that's what it is. There's a lot of variation in the meaning of this among academic librarians, but typically this is what it would involve. At CUNY, this is what we have: faculty status with rank, faculty rank. But then there's also other situations where there may be academic status. For example, SUNY, which followed, it was very similar with SUNY. They had faculty rank for a long time, but they didn't have a status, I should say, but they didn't have faculty rank. And I had studied CUNY, SUNY back in the the late 1980s, and at that point, they were it was instructor, assistant librarian, associate librarian, librarian. That was the top. That was the equivalent of professor. And just through this conference, looking at the conference yesterday and the credentials of people as they gave them, they now have these ranks. They're using the ranks that we are at CUNY, except they're not. They're considered to have academic status, so it's slightly different, but they do have, it's a little bit different. And then there's other situations. I was working for another institution before I came to Lehman, and we had, all of the librarians had faculty rank, but nobody at the college had tenure. Everybody just got year-to-year appointments. And then other situations may just involve academic status or professional status. And this, I think, is more typical for the ARL libraries. The performance criteria for CUNY librarians is the three-legged stools. This is very common in academia. So it would be teaching, research, or scholarship and service. Now, our equivalent of the teaching component, we all do teaching, of course, in the libraries, but it would actually be librarianship. So the teaching of the three-legged stools for classroom faculty would be for the full-time faculty. They would be evaluated on that. Whereas for us, it's more librarianship, research, scholarship, and service. So let me move ahead. So working at CUNY, and I'm not necessarily going to take these in order, but you really need to be able to internalize that model. And we're serious about the research and scholarship, and that's something you've really got to make a commitment to. And you need to really commit to learning, lifelong learning and continual professional development. And you need to know also that your productivity is assessed annually for reappointment, certainly before, this is done very vigorously before earning tenure. And we function with the library P&B, the Personnel and Budget Committee. So these are librarians who have been voted onto the committee by peers, by the other librarians in the department. So the decisions are made annually. Should the person be reappointed? Yes, no. And it's typically yes, but you've really got to you really have to do the work that's involved. Now, for librarians who are hired as instructors, they have 4 years to acquire a second graduate degree. So Michelle was a perfect example of that. She explained that to you. When you've completed that, you've completed your second degree, you can be moved to the assistant professor line, reclassified for the assistant professor line, and that puts you on the tenure track at that point. So prior to that, Michelle had time to work on her coursework, kind of get acquainted with the environment at the college, and listening to other people talk about their work and so on. So she was really getting socialized, all this time. And in the 7th year, candidates undergo a rigorous tenure review. Now, these tenure reviews, and this is beyond CUNY, have traditionally been called this $1 million commitment. And the reason for that, and it's actually, I mean, if you think about it today, it's even more than $1 million commitment. It's a permanent appointment to the institution. And this includes external review, external peer review evaluations of scholarship. Now, the external review, it means beyond City University. So this has even changed over time. It used to be that some of these evaluations came from, other CUNY librarians or whatever. But you really need to be aware of that. And the librarian going up for tenure is asked to provide the names of at least four people who can do an outside evaluation on their scholarship. And then there's also the internal review, which is done at the college. So of course it starts with the library Personnel and Budget Committee, the vote there, and then there's several layers of going up, different committees within the college till it finally goes to the president. And then, but it's actually the CUNY Board of Trustees that makes the final decision on granting tenure. Now, promotion is also decided in the 7th year. Now, I should say, when I first came in 1985, it wasn't, these were actually two separate decisions that were being made, but it was tenure. A tenure decision came up in the 4th year of service. So you really had to work very quickly at that point in order to get things into your file. And then promotion was not necessarily done even in the same year, even in the next semester. It could have been several years after that a decision on promotion to the next rank, which would traditionally be the associate professor. So the tenure, I should go back. The tenure could also, tenure review, will be for the assistant professor. It could also be for the next rank. You may have come in as an associate professor. Rarely is it full professor, but that can happen too. But it's primarily these other ranks that would be included. But the promotion to associate professor, it's a separate vote that's made in the library's P&V and then the other committees. And then the president of the college makes the final decision. And then of course it goes to, that information is shared with the CUNY Board of Trustees. And they essentially, it's really the college the decision is really made on the college level. And essentially it's kind of I shouldn't say rubber stamping, but that's exactly what it is. Now the challenges for librarians is, first of all, our work schedule here at the college. We're working year-round at the college, and whereas the teaching faculty schedule is more flexible than ours. I mean, for many of them, graduation comes, they're gone for the entire summer. They don't come back until the fall semester starts. But the librarians are here, over intersession, over spring break, and so on, and these other things. So for us, it's a 35-hour work week that we work. Now, library faculty also don't necessarily have the type of training that classroom faculty, particularly if they have PhDs or the equivalent doctorate, in terms of research methodology. Now, of course, librarians can do research, but they really need, if they're going to use different research methodologies, they really need to read up on what's really required. I mean, just surveys, many of them use surveys, but there's really protocols that go with these different methods. So, I mean, that's just one example. Now, this 10-year time clock really goes very fast, and so you really need to strategize your work. The funding opportunities do exist, and I will speak a little bit more about that, but I would really focus on trying to get some publications together and not things that don't really require funding. Now, when I came in, because of the work I do in special collections, I was dealing with grants, funding for grants, pretty much from the beginning, within months of arriving. And but in terms of how it's going to affect your publications, I would really try and get some publications together, not dependent at that very early stage on requiring funding. And it's important that you really stay motivated in your work. And instead of I have to do X, Y, and Z, try and think I get to. I mean, it really is exciting, the work that we really get to do. And excellence in librarianship, which you're going to be judged on, excellence in librarian service, research and scholarship. I mean, they have intrinsic values in themselves. And I mean, it's good for the library, it's good for the college, the university, and just the profession itself. But, if you have this mindset, it's really very good for you also. And it really does contribute to your success. It will contribute to your success. Now, in terms of the, I think did I go? Let me go ahead. Yeah, I went backwards. Okay, in terms of the opportunities that are available to you, as a university, there's a lot of opportunities that are available. But I think some of the most important really are the PSC CUNY benefits that we have. This is our union for City University. And a number of these benefits have really been hard won. And I'm going to start just with I'm going to take these out of order, but just starting with, you have free tuition. For example, somebody who's on the instructor line, they can actually take, usually they're going for a second degree, they can take graduate courses. And it's not just at Lehman College, it could be at Baruch, it could be at Hunter, it could be at any of the other colleges within City University. So that's a real benefit. You can, and this is the way people can complete their second graduate degree. But I've had courses also. I've audited courses. I don't need course credits, but I've taken history courses just out of general interest, and it's really been great. I really enjoyed that. Now, another thing is the reassignment leaves in libraries. This is something that the librarians got in 1978. And this gave librarians time for, there's 50 of these that were offered across the university. And it gave librarians time to work on their research and scholarship and, get some publications together, that type of thing. And I took advantage of those as I was going along. That was really very helpful. So it started with 2 weeks, it went to 4 weeks, over time, and then now it's 4 weeks. So this is for all ranks. It's not for, in other words, it's not just for the untenured. Now, another thing is that when I started at City University, I was given 6 weeks annual leave. And then, so this was 1985. Within 2 to 3 years, this changed, and the new librarians coming in were reduced to 4 weeks of annual leave per year. And it took a number of years to get to the point where we are right now with 40 days per year. And I mean, this is phenomenal that we have this today. And this is not just for untenured, this is really for all the librarians. And what really got us this was a white paper that was written by one of the librarians groups. I was trying to remember the name. Okay, the PSC CUNY Library Faculty Committee. And they wrote this white paper. I have it in the sources at the end, and you can read it if you want, but it really laid out the case for how disadvantaged the librarians were in terms of the time that they had and the work that they had to do, the type of schedule that they had. And then the last thing, which is also phenomenal, is librarians have reassigned time for, this is the reassigned time for untenured librarians. And so remember, the tenure clock is 7 years. They're going to be judged within 7 years. The first 5 years in
Just to interrupt you, you have 1 minute just to let you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
no
so
problem.
Yeah, okay. So the librarians have this, they have the time, they get actually 30 days per year for 5 years to work on their work. The PSC CUNY Research Awards, as you go on and you need, working on publication, you need money or whatever that you can do. You can see these yourself. I'm not gonna go into these, but LACUNY is a big advantage for us because we really get to know each other. This is not the case for teaching faculty in the departments. They don't have an association for biology professors and, that type of thing. And then there's other organizations you can join, which you know about. And then there's other money which you can get on campus. Michelle did a very good job talking about the collaborative that we have with with our School of Education. And then these are just some of the recommendations. Read all the documentation. Okay, challenging is not only scholarship is not only challenging for the librarians, but for everybody on the entire faculty. And use the library as a laboratory. Michelle mentioned some of the work that our librarians have done. And, if you don't know what you want to write about, make sure that you keep reading and reading, engage with the literature, and you will find gaps in the literature for things that you're interested in. That's a possibility. And remember, we're generalists, and we can write on, virtually any topic because we're dealing with so many disciplines. That's not the case for teaching faculty as well. And then look at networking is really important. And particularly when you remember that you're going to have to give the names of people who can support you. And then these are just sources that I have, and I strongly recommend this publication by Miles and Markin. This was this was a Climbing the Ladder of Success. This was done by the LACUNY Professional Development, and these were papers that came out at that time, which were based on the talks that were given on research, on scholarship, on mentoring, and there's about 5 different things, and that's definitely worth looking at. This is our union link, and then this was that study that I had mentioned. So that's basically what I had to say, and I guess stop share. Okay, thank you.
That was excellent. Thank you so much, Janet. I also want to
Okay.
thank everyone, Michelle, Aryssa, and Janet for your presentations. They were excellent. I know I learned a lot. And just want to again thank you everyone for attending this particular session of the 3 presentations. And yeah, we're gonna move on shortly to our next presentation. I believe it's at 11:15. Derek, do you have anything to conclude? You're on mute. You're on mute.
We have Q&A now.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
Yes. So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask the participants? I mean, the presenters, excuse me.
Can I ask Janet a question?
Sure.
Am I allowed? Actually, I'm gonna wait. No, AJ, you go first. I don't want to. Yeah. AJ.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. I have a question about the State University of New York. What is their faculty librarian status now? Because I had to do a external reviewer for one of the librarian at Stony Brook, and I reviewed their guideline, and they have a very different title: Associate 1, 2, 3, Assistant Librarian, and then it's called library faculty, but they're not allowed to use the word professor.
Right. Well, actually, I was looking at the credentials that were up on for one of the presenters. It was from one of the CUNY institutions. They actually had the title. So and these were faculty titles. So I understand. And for a long time, that's what it had been. They did not have the faculty, as we have in City University. So actually, somebody from SUNY might be able to clarify this better than I can on this. I don't know if there's anybody else who's in here, who can comment on it.
And another thing also, CUNY is a very huge campus, 64 campuses. So I will be very curious to know how Stony Brook is different than SUNY Purchase, or SUNY Purchase different than NASA Community College. So I just, it's very interesting to know. It was not clear to me. I did a lot of research, but I got more confused.
Yeah, I think somebody from SUNY really needs to answer those questions. I don't know if there's anybody with us today that can really clarify that for us.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Well, if you come to the next presentation at 11:15, there are actually 2 CUNY SUNY presenters.
Okay, good.
So one of which is my fiance, so you can ask them for sure.
Okay, and we'll congratulate her.
Yeah.
Mark, did you have a question?
No, it's just interesting that in your experience, having been through, I'm in my 15th year in the CUNY system, and it's just interesting to when you look at, I found tenure was a breeze, but promotion was a challenge. And I'm wondering that I found there a lack of consistency when you want to try to apply for promotion and you look at your colleagues and then you look across different CUNY institutions, it's so different where it's, for example, some places, it might be more difficult to get to associate professor, and some places it might be easier. So it's interesting that I found in my experience, and I've only been in the CUNY system since 2008, that it's not consistent. And I think that, across and even across the colleagues, even my colleagues, and again, not going to go into details, but
which college are you from? I forgot.
I'm at CSI. I'm at College of Staten Island.
Okay.
So, so tenure was so easy, but I was denied promotion 3 times, which is completely ridiculous. I mean, I have 3 books. Why would I, and no, I'm just saying it's, so in other words, I'm assuming that when I apply for full professor, when I finish my PhD, I'm also going to be denied 3 or 4 times. And I just think I find it to be inconsistent. That's all. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, you're right. There is inconsistency across and variation. And
Oh yeah, right.
but here's the thing. Here at Lehman, I've been working on this tenure promotion committee here at the college, tenure promotion CCE, and so it's a dean, it's 3 chairs, and it's me. So we all represent the schools at the college, and the library reports to a dean. Kenneth Schlesinger is with us today, and so I was asked to go as the representative from the library. So we've been working for the last 14 months on a booklet that's all about all the different particulars. It goes into many of these different aspects. So I would say, I mean, which would be very helpful for our faculty. It should go up. We hope to launch it by the fall. It'll be up on the provost website. But what I would say to all of you, certainly within CUNY, is to take a look at the provost homepage and look at the criteria that are up there, and talk to your chief librarian to figure out what's going on, that you've had this situation, this promotion decision, and
Right.
just because the chief librarian should be able to give you some feedback on why the decision was made. The evaluations that had to be done on you, maybe there was something in that was said that wasn't too helpful. So yeah, that's
Oh
about
no,
it.
it's fine. I mean, I mean, it's all a learning experience. It's interesting. We're the only campus in CUNY where the associate dean can vote. So we have a separate appointments chair who can vote. It's very interesting because our chief librarian is a dean, like at Lehman,
Right.
but I can't speak for Kenneth, but our dean can't vote. So that means that and I think other CUNYs, the dean also has faculty status or faculty rank, and they're able to vote. But we have a separate appointments chair who is not our boss. Isn't that interesting? This is an appointment. Yeah,
I've heard of things like that at
Very
other,
interesting.
even at private schools. I've heard of things like that. Yeah. So yeah, there's so much variation within
Yeah, definitely. And
colleges and
it's
universities.
that it's
Yeah.
one university, but it's not consistent. So I just think it's just
Yeah.
interesting. That's all.
If
Thank
I could say something else, it just following up on the award committees, and that's very good in terms of professional development. I would also say that reading other people's manuscripts, as Michelle has spoken about so eloquently, is really very helpful. And grants, if you have an opportunity to read other people's grants, that's very helpful. I had chaired the library panel for the research awards we have at City University. So I got to see all these different grants that were coming through, and we had a committee and we were reviewing them. It's done a little bit differently today. We're not sending grants out for reviews, but that's changed even over time. So, but we had to look for reviewers for people. But now it's done by the committee itself. So it's now the computer science and libraries are combined, because many of the grant requests that were coming through for the librarians were related to computerization in one way or another. But you really learn a lot by just reading other people's works and reading. I mean, this is a real, whether it's reading the literature or reading, helping other people with their work, it's helping you as well. All of that. The other thing is, we've had ALA traveling grants, and once you get these grants, they'll ask if you're willing to review other grants that have come in, for other projects that have come up along the way. And some of these things actually pay. You get a stipend for doing some of these readings. I've read. I was asked to review a book proposal, which was an area that I could comment on, substantively, and I was paid for that. I mean, they're not phenomenal amounts. And then there's other possibilities of collaboration. I've worked with the art gallery, and I work with the Bronx, Bronx Research in particular because of our collections. And so I wrote about 50 essays just on different landmarks, buildings in the Bronx, architecture. And so, I mean, that was a great opportunity too, because I mean, it was something I really enjoyed. So all of these possibilities, it's study, it's reading, but getting to know people, working with, you learn a lot from talking to other people. And you know, because we're all in the same city, you know, for City University, you know, we get to see each other. We get to see the people on Staten Island, which is like, you know, maybe 2.5 hours to get out to, even from us here at Lehman. We're at the extreme north of the city. They're at the southern end, but you've got to cross the river, you know, with the ferry and, you know, so on. But so it's very good. It can be very rewarding for you. But
Yeah,
so just
LACUNY has a question. I just want to
Sure.
make sure that I have a chance to answer all the questions. LACUNY, you have a question?
Oh, yes, I kind of had a question. Sorry.
That's on Nelson hiding as LACUNY.
Yeah, sorry. All phenomenal presentations. Thank you so very much. I truly learned so much and enjoyed it. Well, the question is kind of for Janet. One of the things I've been in CUNY for a while as an undergraduate, et cetera, at different levels. And, you know, from the time of the 5-year tenure track, for instance, and I saw many people go through it. And you shared just so much information. I've noticed that when I started on the tenure track, not necessarily at BCC, but across, that there's some bitterness among some folks with regard to all the stuff that folks like you, Janet, have fought for the research leave, et cetera, et cetera. And there's still like a little bit of bitterness among some people, not everyone, but among some folks.
among the librarians, or
I would say yes, librarians, given that things change. So
that things have gotten a little bit easier than it had been. Is that what it?
Yes, have gotten easier for the newbies like myself, right?
Okay.
For example, some people, and not just librarians, also folks in other departments, right?
Right.
As well. So not just the librarians. So
Yeah.
I guess my question to you is, like, how have you and colleagues who have actually championed these initiatives for us, how have you been able to reconcile this with colleagues that perhaps have remained bitter? How have you tried to fix that?
Well, first of all, they're gone. They're gone. And so that's not a situation. These are all, they're not here as long as I am. But I mean, yeah, I remember what it was like, in those with those 4 years. And, at the same time, I was going through Columbia. I was working on a doctorate. I had finished the coursework. I was working on the dissertation. So, in a sense, that helped because I was so entrenched in the literature and reading things. And I'll tell you, there wasn't a lot of support. It was just, look, this is what you have to do it. And I saw people not get tenure, and that was painful for them. It was painful, to see them go. And but I mean, we really should have had, much more support, going further back. So yeah, right.
But I think to your point, Nelson, I think that there are people, and yes, I've benefited a lot, but I think that the bar has been raised more. I know in our library,
yes.
we created, a requirement, and it's rigorous. And I knew that. I'm very grateful to Janet and to Kenneth going in that you need to write 4 to 5 articles. This is what you need to do. And I like that because that's why I knew, okay, I need to get going on this. This is what I need to do. So I think that the bar has been raised, with privilege comes responsibility, that kind of thing.
Right. We have a few minutes left. Does anybody have any questions? I know I have to go to another session after this.
And me too.
I'm sure everybody else does as well, hopefully. Any last questions?
It was an excellent discussion.
Yes.
3 excellent presentations.
Right. All right. So I guess that's it, Mark, right?
Yeah. Thank you all for coming today to these 3 presentations, and thank you for attending LACUNY Institute. On to the next set of presentations.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.